Alrighty, now we let our bread rise until double. Actually, mine rose, has been ready for a little bit. As you can see, it has risen double. It took about 4 hours. Now, sometimes it might take 8 hours, sometimes it's 6. Sometimes it's ready in 2. It's a very warm day today, and mine just started to settle again. So it will depend on how warm it is in your house, how warm of the day it is. Is it hot? Is it humid? Is it chilly? As to how long it's going to raise, that's why I said it's a good idea to stay at home when you're making this, so that you don't worry that you're going to be out and about. Oh my goodness, it smells so yummy. That you're going to be out and about. Now I'm going to put this over here. I've got some flour on my board. You don't even need a board. If you don't have one, don't freak out. You can clean your countertop off and use that just as well. I'm going to knead this a few times just to make sure it's nice and smooth. If you also used only the 1 packet of yeast versus the 1 tablespoon that I used this time, it will rise a little bit slower because there's less yeast. So, now I've kneaded that till it looks pretty smooth and beautiful. As you can see, I'm just picking it up to the side and pushing it in the middle with my heel. Up and pushing it, up and pushing it. All the way around. You shouldn't need that much flour on your board. Just enough so it won't stick. I might actually need a little bit more in a second. Now, it's nice and round and smooth. This is going to make 3 loaves, 3 8-inch loaves. Okay, so I've got 3 different pans. I've got a Norpro pan, I've got a generic non-stick pan, and then I've got this one that's been used, as you can tell, a million times. This is a Wilton pan. They're all 8 inches. They're just a little bit different in shape. I got 3 different ones out so that you can see. It doesn't matter what kind of 8-inch pan you have. This bread is very forgiving, so you just need an 8-inch pan. Now, I usually use USA pans. I'm not using that this time because I think probably most people don't have those. But those are steel-coated aluminum pans, and then they have a coating called Americoat, which is not Teflon, but it doesn't stick. Nothing will stick to that baby. I'm serious. Brownies, nothing. So I'm replacing most of my bakeware with USA naughty bread. I'm replacing it little by little as I have the money. So in order that our bread won't stick, because we're not using USA pans, I've got some more sunflower oil, and I poured just a little bit into each pan. And Eli's getting fussy in the background. I'm just going to take my hand and smear it all around. Smear it all down in there on every side and in the corner so your bread won't stick. She didn't get very much here, so I'm stealing some. Like Robin Hood. Now, this is just to keep it from sticking. Because if you've ever tried to turn out bread and it stuck to your pan, that's enough to make a mama cry when you work on your bread and it looks so nice and pretty and it won't come out. Croutons, breadcrumbs, you can still use it, but we don't want to have that problem today. Although if I'm on camera, you can pretty much guess something loopy is going to happen. Like in that one video, what you couldn't see is Andy come upstairs and he was using the potty right down below the camera, but you couldn't see it. He's potty training. Now, I've got those all coated. I'm going to use my bench scraper, but you can just use a knife or your hands. And I'm going to divide my, I've done this so much, I just know. I'm going to divide it into 3 and just eyeball it. It doesn't have to be perfect. Some people weigh it. I don't got time for that. And then pull them apart. You can pretty much tell by holding them in your hand if they're the same. Now, I'm going to just knead each one a little bit to make sure you get all your bubbles out. And as you're kneading, you can shape it. Some people roll theirs out and then roll it up kind of like they're making cinnamon rolls and put it in the pan. But like I said, ain't nobody got time for that, especially me. So I just roll it till it looks pretty and smooth on the top, like this. And now I've got 3 loaves. Okay, now I'm going to put each one in a pan, but I'm going to put it in there upside down. And then I'm going to flip it over so that it's all coated and that it won't stick. Now we're just going to let this rise to the top of the pan before we bake it. When it looks like it's almost ready is whenever you turn your oven on, because you don't want it to be ready and then turn your oven on, because then that could make you have over-rising. When your bread over-rises, it will sink down in the middle. It's still tasty, but it's just not as pretty. So now I've got those 3, and I will let them sit here. I could cover them with my shower cap again, or not. So we're just going to let them rise until they're double. It might not come to the top of the pan, it might, but don't let it rise too high. Don't let it rise more than double, or it will sink. I'm just going to cover these with a dishcloth. And like I said, you never know how long it's going to take for them to rise. It's kind of warm here today, so it shouldn't take that long. And they'll fill the pan, and then we'll come back and we'll bake them at 350. So when it looks like it's ready, that's when you turn your oven on. So we'll be back when it's ready. All right, our bread is ready to go in. And see how it's just a little bit over the top of the pan. I hope I haven't let it raise too high, but probably not. If you ever put your bread in the oven and then when you pull it out, it's sunk down like this in the middle, you just let it raise too high, because I've done that approximately 4.5 million times. So these all look very good, and I'm going to put them in the oven. Now, that's going to cook for 25 minutes, and then I'm going to test the temperature. We'll talk about that in just a second. I did want to say that if you don't have 3 8-inch loaf pans, no big deal. Don't run out to the Walmart and get you some. You can use 2 9-inch instead of 3 8-inch. I just prefer the 3 8-inch for this particular recipe, but 2 9-inch works just as good. So we'll be back in 25 minutes and pull the yumminess out. Okay, we're at 25 minutes. So I'm going to go over to the oven and use my temperature gauge to check it. I like to cook mine until it's 190. If you don't have that, no big deal. You can just take your fingers and tap real lightly on top. If it sounds hollow, then it's usually done. Now, there we go. They look lovely. This one's a little wonky, but that's probably the way I shaped it. The, did I say Norpro? This pan, Norpro pan, always works better and makes a prettier shaped loaf, I believe. So they're very reasonable. They're around $8 a piece. I got this from my Amish store, actually. So I'm going to let these cool for 10 minutes, and then I'll come back and I'll turn them out, and we'll wrap up this video so that you can go and make your own. Okay, so here we are at the very end. I let my loaves cool for 10 minutes in the pans, and then I turn them out, and I'm letting them cool. I don't usually cut them until I let them cool all the way down, because they just cut better and they just do a whole lot better. I will cut them and put them in here. As you can see, I wanted to do this in 3 different kinds of pans so you could see what it's going to turn out. These 2 that are just 8-inch pans, like you would cook banana bread or something in, as you can see, they're shorter and wider, so they're not a loaf of bread like you might think, hey, I'm going to make homemade bread. This looks more like a loaf of banana bread. Now this is your Norpro pan. As you can see, it's more square on the sides. It looks more like a traditional loaf of bread. So I just really like how the Norpro and the USA pans are similar in shape. I just like how they turn out. I think they look better, especially for slicing to make sandwiches. Now, I used, like I said, 3 8-inch pans. They're a little shorter. So if you want taller bread, you would rather use 2 9-inch pans. So I'm going to let these cool all the way down, then I'm going to cut them, and we're going to have pork barbecue on top for dinner. And that's my tutorial on how to make these. Let me know if you have any questions.